Okay, the Power Linguist back with you. First things, as always, real name and real photo to comment. Get a lot of people who forget that aspect. Anyway, so here's something that's of importance, and also a lot of people are talking about again right now, and that's vocabulary. What is the best way to learn vocabulary? How do you learn vocabulary, and why should you learn vocabulary, I guess? Number one, vocabulary. The lexicon is important. Those people who can talk and read and understand a great deal have large vocabularies, and of course you can get in specialized areas, which you need to do if you're going to be a specialist and actually be functional in the L2. So what I want to talk about just briefly here, because I'm not going to go into big details, that a lot of people want to talk about how they learn vocabulary. And actually, research shows that the fastest way to actually just learn vocabulary is through basically would be a flashcard system, and that of course now has been used with software programs can do that to practicing it. The factor of doing that, though, that is the fastest way. It shows the fastest results. You can cram basically vocabulary, but the retention is not very high, and the retention is what matters in the long run. So, and here's the key, and this is something that the volume method that I'm working on right now because so many people ask me, and it's going to be a pan linguistic volume method because it's not cost efficient to do one for each language. It's just not going to happen. Not now. And anyway, so the thing is to get retention, the volume method uses several things that will make this retention strong, and it makes the connections strong. This is the thing, especially, okay, so if you're using flashcards, you're basically doing a translation process, which is what most people do. There is a way to make right brain flashcards, and there is a way to learn vocabulary right brain. It takes longer. It takes longer to create the resources, and it takes longer to implement them because of that factor. And it's hard if you're going to do a large number of new words. The aspect, though, with the volume method is that you will be doing things that create a connection between the L2 and the L1 at a much deeper, firmer level. And this is part of the structure of the volume method. The volume method works off of a structure that's missing in these other people's attempts and methodology. People who are doing things like, okay, you're just going to read and you're just going to listen, that doesn't form a deep connection. It doesn't work. It's not as fast as the volume method. It's not as secure, and it's not as firm. So this is a foundation. The volume method is a structure that has a very strong foundation, and you can't build like it's saying in the volume method itself that you can't have 11th floor. You can't have 11th floor if you don't have a fifth and a sixth floor below it that are strong enough to support the 11th floor, and underneath that something that's holding the entire structure together. This is what happens. People are taking bits and pieces of the language process, and because they don't really know it's a process, and they're trying to put it together in a hodgepodge fashion. They're building, trying to make a building basically by not putting down a foundation, not have strong underpinnings, and they're trying to put in higher floors when they haven't gotten the structure. Now this is all covered in the volume method, and that's something it's not gonna, I'm not, that's enough said because it's in the volume method, so there's no reason to repeat all that. I'm not going to repeat it here. It's not going to happen. And so the factor is to have a strong vocabulary, though, and to have vocabulary, and for it to be make sense and to use, comprehensible, which is most people are using incorrectly that word, to make sure that you understand and use the lexicon correctly, you have to have a structure underlying that vocabulary, and you have to have a meaning. There has to be a meaning involved there. The meaning of why, the reason why these words would be important to you. That, of course, goes to another aspect that the volume method is. It's a functional approach. It's not a hobbyist. It's not a narrow-minded, go down one avenue, and that's what I want to talk about, and that's what I listen to. It's just like, okay, for example, an actor can learn a monologue and appear to be fluent in a language, but that is a memorization, and so can a parrot. A parrot can imitate, certain parrot species can imitate any language. They can even do the click-stop languages in Africa. But that does not mean that the parrot can generate new sentences. It doesn't mean the actor can generate new sentences. It doesn't mean that they understand what they're hearing. It doesn't mean they understand what they're saying, really. Okay? It's just it's sort of a recording device. That's really what an actor is doing when they memorize monologues, whether in their first language or their second language or whatever. I could bring up many movies where people learn languages for a part. They don't speak those languages. They can't speak to anybody. They couldn't do anything. They can recite lines. A parrot can do the same thing. They can't generate new material. And with the volume method, it's all about you creating a strong foundation so that you can generate new sentences and new structures unheard of. That's one of the things that generative grammar is about. You create novel sentences and novel clauses. Novel sentences is really kind of an arbitrary definition, but utterances should be well-formed, meaningful utterances is what it's called in linguistics. So the volume method, yeah, it does work for the vocabulary, and it does it in a way that's missing in other people's approaches. And just want to let you know. So that's part of so think about vocabulary. Vocabulary is not an abstract part. It's not something you do as a component. It is integral to the entire process of language learning. So I'll be back at you again soon in the future, obviously, not in the past. If I do that, yeah, wouldn't be on YouTube. All right. Anyway, talk to you later. It's the Power Linguist. Not here to win friends. Not here to influence the detractors, but just to set the record straight.